name is John Adair. I'll be your MC for this afternoon. This is our fourth annual luncheon. We started this 3 years ago, so this is our fourth luncheon. And each of these luncheons, we've been very fortunate to have the support of Citizens First Savings Bank. The bank has made a donation in each of the years to help us cover the major costs of the event, the food and speaker costs, etc. And that means that each of your checks today will go directly to the bottom line on scouting. And so we want to acknowledge the bank, Marsh Campbell, and the rest of his staff here from the bank. Marsh, please stand, and let's everybody give the bank a big hand. And at this time, I'll call on John Hauser to come forward. Those who don't know John, John is on his second career here as a employee of the Blue Water Council of Boy Scouts, and he's here today to introduce our guest speaker. Well, good afternoon. Before I introduce our guest speaker, there are just a few people we want to acknowledge. John has already talked about the history of this fundraising event. But when Jeff Purdy and I sat down and talked about who do we want to have as our chairperson for this event, we gravitated to one person. And this person has delivered, just as he delivered when he was the CEO of Port Huron Hospital. He is a friend of the community, he's a friend of scouting, and he's certainly a friend of mine. Don Fletcher, if you please stand. I also wanted to mention on a personal note an Eagle Scout who is in critical condition in Atlanta, Georgia, following a car accident back on April 5th. And I know all his fellow scouts would certainly appreciate a prayer, and that would be my brother David. Now to the business at hand. Our guest speaker today is not Matthew McConaughey, which I'm sure is a minor disappointment to Christine Newberry's table. But I'm sure you will all enjoy the journey of Jack Lingle. If you saw the movie We Are Marshall, Jack is played by Matthew McConaughey. In 1971, Jack was named the head football coach at Marshall University following a 1970 plane crash that took the lives of nearly the entire football team, coaching staff, and supporters. In all, 75 people perished that day. He came to the grieving community of Huntington, West Virginia from the College of Western Ohio, where he was head football coach, and I was a student working my way through school writing sports for the local newspaper. It's hard to believe, but it's been 40 years, Jack, that our fellowship started. He looks young. I'm getting there. A simple call to a friend I have admired and respected for all these years was answered, and he is with us today. After 4 years of building a foundation for the new Thundering Herd football program, Jack went on to become a highly regarded athletic administrator at several universities, which included 13 years at the Naval Academy. Of importance, Jack was a scout. It is truly my honor and privilege to have Jack here in our community and speak to the values of commitment, respect, and never giving up. And for those of you who are involved in scouting, that's what we talk about. Friends of the Blue Water Council, I give you Coach Jack Lingle.
Thank you. To introduce my talk today, so I'm sure many of you may have not seen the movie We Are Marshall. We have a film clip of about a minute and a half that gives you the background of Marshall University.
Let's go. That was a big hit today.
Not proud of it. We are. Also.
What's happened?
All 75 people are dead in the greatest disaster in college sports history.
promised some others that I'd look after their sons. There's not one of them left.
You might cancel the program. This ain't right.
I'm sorry.
Jack Liddell called. Says he may be interested in the open coaching job.
Why do you want this job?
When I heard about what had happened, the only thing I could think about was how bad it would hurt if I was to lose for them. And I thought, hell, maybe I can help. This is my varsity team, huh? It's a new name. We gotta get creative about who we're going after. No, sir.
You think you're the only one that's had a rough? We're not honoring Jack. We're disgracing him. This is not about the game. This is about what happened to this town. There's something I think y'all need to hear.
This is our past. We cannot forget that. This is your opportunity to rise from the ashes. Funeral's been today.
One day we're gonna be like every other day. Where winning is everything. And nothing else matters. And when that day comes, so we'll honor them.
What day is it, son? What day? Time to play till the whistle blows.
That's an introduction to the story about We Are Marshall University. And before I get into that, I want to thank John Hauser for inviting me here. John was a third baseman and an outfielder on our baseball team, and was also working part-time as a sports writer for the local paper when I was the head football coach at the College of Worcester. And when I took the job at Marshall University, I tried to get John to come with me to get his master's degree in writing, and et cetera, in journalism, et cetera. But John turned me down and went on to be successful in other things. But John, I want to thank you for the invitation, and it's a pleasure to be here before your group of Boy Scout supporters and the Boy Scouts themselves. John mentioned I was a Boy Scout. The first experience I've had of learning about leadership, setting goals, and becoming the best I could be. I went on to become, I got into a second class. You had to be a second class before you could go camping. So I got my second class badge and we went camping. And then the next thing I know, I was into athletics and then moved on from there. But my two sons were scouts. They went on to attend the United States Naval Academy. One son is a lieutenant colonel in the United States Marine Corps. He's a fighter pilot at F4 F-18s. The other son is a commander in the Navy. He was here at Selfridge for 3 years in charge of the recruiting for the Navy for the whole state of Michigan, and went on back to Monterey for his second tour for language school. Is now at the U.S. Embassy in Paris as the Navy liaison. My other son is working with NASA, and he was with the safety committee for the 2 shuttles, and then is now on Mars exploration. And both of them, as I said, were scouts, and scouting played an important role in the beginning of the development of who they were and what they needed to be, the respect and the integrity that you need to be and set your goals. Scouting was very important in their careers, and so I'm talking directly to the scouts here today. Scouting is important. And I think at some point in your career, all of us, whether we're young scouts or whether we're in the business and having a profession today, you have to have a plan for success. You must have a plan for success. We call it a strategic plan for your personal or your professional development. And we always used to say when I was at the Naval Academy, a ship with no port, no wind is favorable. A ship with no port, no wind is favorable. That's why you have to have a plan. You have to have a plan. A plan is your foundation for success. And I think it's important you must write it down. You know, a short pencil is better than a long memory. And you must have core values. Now, what are core values? Core values are about who you are. What do you stand for? And the young scouts here today, you've already mentioned being in the Boy Scouts, being prepared, honored, trustworthy, etc. Those are values that are important to you and must be as you move forward in your success in your career. But values like integrity, ethical behavior, respect. We talked about respect to the high schools today. I think respect is very, very lacking in our communities all over the country. So you got to start with self-respect first to have respect. But our values impact every aspect of our lives, and values determine behavior. Behavior determines reputation, and reputation determines opportunities. My personal core values when I went to Marshall University as a head football coach were faith, hope, and perseverance with a little bit of sense of humor. You know, a minister one time was preaching a sermon about evils of life, and he said about making the right choices. And he had 3 jars out in front of him. And he had a jar of alcohol, a jar of tobacco juice, and a jar of earth, black earth. He had a handful of worms, and he put a few of them in each particular jar. And then he went on and he finished his sermon. And when he asked his congregation, he said, "What's the moral of this story?" And an elderly lady in the back of the church replied, "If you drink alcohol and smoke tobacco, you won't get worms." Well, core values are a personal choice, but core values have to be the right values. And I think that faith, hope, and perseverance were the right values for me when I went to Marshall University. You know, ordinary people can do extraordinary things when they have faith, hope, and perseverance. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Marshall University that set the stage. 36 years ago, a plane was returning from East Carolina University. The pilots had never flown into this airport. Airport's on the side of a mountain. It's a short runway. It's all visual. It's not instrument landing. It was rainy, foggy. There was smoke in the air. It's on the Ohio River. High humidity factor. And they came in very low. The plane was loaded heavy, and they thought they wanted to get the front of the runway. They assumed it was pilot error. They came in so low that their wheels hit the first mountain right before the airstrip, and their wheels, when they hit into the trees, they recognized what it was, lifted it, the tail hit, and they went in right at the base of the mountain 10 seconds before touchdown. In the blink of an eye, 75 people were killed. 36 football players, 5 coaches, 5 administrators, 5 crew members, and 24 boosters, people like yourself, living out right here in this particular community. We Are Marshall is not a football movie. It's a movie about a community who wanted to honor the 75 people on that plane who made a commitment to the university and to their intercollegiate athletic program. I've worked at 16 different universities in my career. I've never worked at a university where the university and the community's heart beats as one. And the Big Green was a very important part of that particular program. Now, let me tell you about the football program. 24 years before, they had 4 winning seasons out of 24 years. There was a streak in there. They went 27 games. They had the longest losing streak in the history of the university and was leading the NCAA at that particular time. They decided to hire a football coach and go ahead and cut some quarters and see if we can get this program put together. The coach got caught. He was fired for cheating by the NCAA. The next year, they were kicked out of the Mid-American Conference. And then the third year, they had the air crash. Now, let me put it in the cultural times. It was in the late 60s. There were hippies on campus. Hippies hated football, they hated discipline, and they were rioting. Now, the faculty, rightfully so, some of them started to muster some support. We had to drop football. Let's just become a basketball. Their basketball team was ranked 8th in the country at one time. Their starting guard was Mike D'Antoni, the coach of the Phoenix Suns. So they had a great history in basketball. Let's just drop football. But the town, the community, who loved this university was not going to let those 75 people die in vain, and they wanted to honor them. And an interim president, Dr. Don Dedman, within 48 hours, said, "We're going to play football next year." That's called faith. That's called faith. One of the most major decisions the university ever made. Now, if I were to set that scenario and give it to a president today of a college or a university, I doubt if there'd be one taker in the country today that would have done what he did. I was at the College of Worcester with John. I was a head football coach. I came in late. My first year, we went 1-8, and my fourth year, we turned it around 8-1. We played for the championship. I was watching television in my living room with my family, and I saw a crawl come across the screen, and it said 75 people killed Marshall football team. My heart sunk. My first thought was, but for the grace of God, there go I, and there go my football team. I watched the program with great interest. They offered a job to a Penn State coach. He turned it down. They offered a job to a Georgia Tech coach. He came up, took the job, stayed 2 days, and resigned for personal reasons. And I got to thinking, I said, maybe I can help. And the reason I said that was because I was a walk-on football player. First 20 guys on a football team, I'm number 20. First 42, I'm number 42. I was not a great athlete, but I loved football, loved practice. And then the football program as a walk-on, I got a scholarship in January, and it gave me my education. My parents were from the old country. I lived in a 3-room house. I slept with my dad till I was 21 years old. We didn't know we were poor. And that gave me, they hired me as a freshman coach. Then I went to the service with the paratroopers, and I coached there. Then I came back on the varsity staff, went to Barberton High School. Then I went to Cornell University in the Ivy League for 3 years. I signed a contract to go to Duke University, but then I got an invitation to interview at the College of Worcester. And I went there, and I accepted, and I was the head football coach at the College of Worcester at the age of 29. Now, there's an old Chinese proverb that says if you're given something of value, you have a moral obligation to pass it on. And I thought if this was my opportunity to pass on what was given to me through football to the people. So I went to the press conference. There weren't many press there. They probably thought, here's another guy, he's probably going to leave too. But Ernie Salvatore, the editor, was there. He said, what's your goal for the football team? And I said, go undefeated. And he looked at me and he kind of smiled. And he said, isn't that a little bit unrealistic? I said, that may not be realistic, but I will tell you this. The commitment that's necessary to go undefeated in one of the most unprecedented situations in the annals of college football is absolutely necessary, or we'll never succeed. It's kind of like the poet Browning, who said, if you can touch the stars, what's the heaven for? You have to reach for your goals. When I got there, I thought I was rebuilding a football team. I quickly found out there were 24 boosters on that plane, 4 doctors and their wives, another doctor, state senator, city councilman, vice presidents, leaders of the community. Leaders like yourself were on that plane. There were 70 children without one parent and 18 children without 2 parents. The plane crash took a wide swath across the whole town. And you could imagine Port Huron having that same circumstances with people like yourself, football team administrators, dean of admissions, director of athletics. First order of business, I had to hire 5 new coaches. I interviewed the 21 freshmen who were there. Some of them had already left. They transferred to other schools. Their parents did not want them to play for a school that had an airplane crash. But 21 of them stayed to play on. I interviewed 3 football players that did not make the trip. Nate Ruffin, our captain, had calcification on his arm, and we made him our captain. Eddie Carter, a tackle as a sophomore, starting tackle, went home. His father passed on Sunday, went home for the funeral. On Wednesday, he's making arrangements to come back to play. Called the coach, and his mother became hysterical. She said, don't go, the plane's going to crash. She was so hysterical, he didn't go. The plane crashed. Now, he went on 2 years later to be an outstanding football player for us. Gil Brandt, vice president of the Dallas Cowboys, charge of personnel, is a close friend of mine. He called me and said, Jack, I'm in Lexington. How about driving halfway? I'll meet you and sign Eddie Carter as a free agent. We met at this little restaurant. Eddie's sitting to my left. Gil's sitting across the booth. We talked for about 5 or 10 minutes. Eddie turns to me and says, Coach, I've made my mind up. Someone will give my life to Jesus Christ. Today, Eddie's one of the leading world evangelists. My captain passed away in 2001 of cancer. Eddie comes back for the eulogy. He's part of the eulogy afterwards. I said, Eddie, tell me about your mother. He said, Coach, she's never had a vision before. She's never had a vision after. But she had that vision. Felix Jordan, he was injured. He was on the bus. Doctor said he could play. Coaches went back in the office. They have their one meeting. They just looking over the roster. So why are we taking Felix? We got a conference. This is a non-conference game. We got a conference game against Ohio next week. Let's hold him out. We would rather have him for that particular game. coach was down. Eddie's sitting in the back of the bus. He goes, gets him off the bus, makes him pull his equipment off, and he gets off. Felix is furious. To this day, he's never recovered. We didn't do a good job back then, 36 years ago, of counseling people and staying with the counseling. Those cars are still with Felix Jordan. John Hagan, our equipment manager, superstitious guy. Plane's leaving on Friday the 13th. Says, Coach, I ain't going with you, so I'm going to rent a truck, and I'm going to drive down, I'm going to drive back. Saved his life. Bobby Harris, quarterback, backup quarterback. He and two linemen from his high school, Cincinnati Moore High School in Ohio, were on the team together. His mom and dad drove down for the game. Said, Bobby, why don't you come? We'll have dinner here. We'll drive you back to school. He said, no, Dad. He said, Coach is upset. We lost. I really should fly back with the team. How about meeting me at the airport? We'll have dinner when we get to Huntington. Reggie Oliver, freshman quarterback. Freshmen were ineligible at that time. There were 5 players from Druid High School in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. That fall in August in a 1963 Ford Pinto, they drove up to campus, and they were all on the team, and Reggie didn't make the trip because he was a freshman, and his roommates were all killed in the crash. He drove that 1963 Ford Pinto back to Druid High School, Tuscaloosa, Alabama, by himself to attend the funeral of 4 of his players. We couldn't run our offense. At the College of Worcester, we were running the Power I offense and a split T speed option off the backside. Basically, it required strong linemen. I looked, and Bobby Bowden was up in West Virginia, and he was running the Houston Veer offense. Well, the Houston Veer offense, first of all, is a concept. You can't just run some of the plays. You've got to run the whole offense. And what it does is it puts 2 wide receivers out, and it puts 9 on 9 inside. Well, that's good for us because we don't have a line. I now stretch the defense horizontally and vertically for the passing game, and that helps us because our linemen are weak. I had 4 good receivers and 2 quarterbacks. The offense was perfect for what we did. Bobby said, come on up, Jack. And so we watched spring practice in the morning and the afternoon, and at night he had his offensive coach, Frank Signetti, who went on to be the head coach when Bobby went to Florida State. And they spent all night teaching us the offense, gave us their notebooks, gave us their film. From midnight to 2, 3, 4 in the morning, we'd watch film for 3 days. We put the offense together, modified it, simplified it, went down 3 days later, and started spring practice and taught the offense as we were learning it. We renamed the team the Young Thundering Herd because they were all freshmen. We had 43 players, and we had ex-servicemen, military police people, 3 basketball players using out their 5th year of eligibility. Anybody that could play was there. 67 alumni came back to play in the spring game, and the spring game was very important to us. Why? It would show that we could play as a team, that we could score and we could run the Veer offense, that we could play defense and that we could win. The whole town was there. 9 months later, we were on the field with a football team after the most tragic airplane crash that took a team unprecedented in the annals of college football. We won the game 26-0. Big step forward for the team, for the university, and for the community. It gave everybody hope. Preseason, we come back next year. We're going to play opening the season. Before the season opened, and every year while I was there, before we played our first game, I would take the players, and particularly this year, I took all the players, because they were all freshmen, up to Spring Hill Cemetery. There's an obelisk up there that's 14 feet tall. On the front, it has the names of the players. On the side, the boosters, and on the other side, the crew members. And out in front, there are 6 unidentified markers, blank, and a bronze plaque in the middle for the 6 players who were burned beyond recognition. When my captain died, Nate Ruffin, he asked to be buried with those 6 players. So I would tell them, I said, the only people who were there was the players, the coaches, managers, and trainers. That was the only, we never invite the press, the university never knew anything about it. In fact, when they made this film, that was the first time they found out about it. And I would tell them, these are your teammates. These are the players you're playing for. We're going to lay the foundation. You're going to be a part of the foundation. I can't promise you championships, all conference, all league. But what I can promise you is, like Winston Churchill once said, is a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. But the knowing that you will be part of building the foundation, that on other future days and future fields, the team will be successful and you will share in those victories and those successes in the later years. Bobby Pruitt, 20 years later, became the winningest coach in Division 1A. Not Michigan State, not Ohio State, Southern Cal, Notre Dame. but Marshall University became the winningest football team in Division 1A under his leadership. From the ashes came the phoenix. So I think, when you look at that, we opened the game when we played Moorhead. The first game, it was an away game. We took 4,000, 5,000 people from the community. What happened was we're playing, and we're third quarter, it's still 16-6. We're nothing but freshmen, a well-seasoned team. We scored our first touchdown on a screen play from the 13-yard line to Tom Smith. He dove in the end zone. We lost 29-6. It started to cave in on us in the fourth quarter. Came back home. We're going to play Xavier. We're 4 touchdowns underdog. Didn't have a kicker. We couldn't kick an extra point or field goal, so I put an ad in the student newspaper, the Parthenon, saying, room, board, books, tuition, fee, and kick an extra point or field goal. 14 guys showed up on Monday. After practice, we kicked them all. They were not very good, And I see this. Now, remember, this is the hippie time. I see this guy out of the corner of my eye. He's got a red and blue uniform on, long, scraggly hair, long beard, soccer shoes. And I look, I said, son, are you here to kick? He said, yes. I said, you ever kick a football? I said, yes. You ever get a football game? Never. I said, come on over here. I figured, let's get him over. We'll go eat dinner, Put him down on the 3-yard line. He thumps it. Put him back at the 5-yard on the left hash. Right hash, we're back to the 10, the 50. He's kicking them like crazy. I said, son, you get a haircut, shave, you get a scholarship, free room, board, books, tuition, fees. Now we're playing Marshall's playing Xavier, 4 touchdowns underdog. The priest is on the sideline. Now our field is a concrete wall about 8 feet deep, and the ramps are coming down. The priest is there blessing the team as they come on the field. We're on the 13-yard line just about the end of the first quarter, and I go, Blake, are you ready? I look at him, he says, yes, coach. I said, go on and kick a field goal. Now, he's supposed to go to the huddle, he'll call field goal, set his tee up 7 yards behind the center. He's setting up his tee. Reggie sees, waiting for him, sees he's not coming, so he calls field goal. And then he sees Reggie, so he starts toward him, and Reggie waves him off. So he comes back, he says, Coach, I didn't know if he's going to kick me or the ball. He said, Blake, are you ready? He said, snap the ball. He kicks it 3-0. We're leading at halftime, 3-0. And we go in at halftime. We talk to the team. We check our injuries. The stadium is packed. We have the governors there, Archmore. And I told them, gentlemen, in the palm of your hand, you have one of the greatest upsets in college football. 30 more minutes of perseverance, dedication, hard-nosed football, and you'll have a memory that'll last your lifetime. We went out there, they scored 3-6. We come back, and the last of the third quarter, we scored. It's 9-6. Now going into the fourth quarter, we have to, I told our team, get 2 first downs, punt the ball away, we'll play defense, we'll win this game. We missed the first down by 2 inches. So we punt the football. John Gomferster, good tailback, catches it 47 yards going the other way, 13-9. We have about 8 minutes to go in the game. We get the ball back. We can't move. We punt it to them. They get the ball back. They're starting to drive. And Harris, our defensive tackle, breaks through, takes the quarterback for a loss. They got to punt to us. We get the ball on the 48-yard line. Our 48-yard line with 1 minute and 18 seconds to go. We threw 3 incomplete passes. And I'm sure the stadium still has a great effort. The fourth pass, we throw, Reggie makes 10 yards to Jerry Aerosmith. The next pass, 10 yards to Kelly Sherwood. We move the football down. We're down on the 13-yard line on the right hash mark. And we tell Jerry Aerosmith, we're going to throw you the ball, Jerry. Get out of bounds. We need to kill the clock. We don't have a timeout. Jerry catches the ball, tries for the sidelines, can't get there, and the clock is running. So we had been running the bootleg pass, and Lenny Seed had caught 8 passes for 136 yards on the bootleg, so we called the bootleg throwback screen, which means we fake the bootleg to the left, roll back, and then when we get set up inside the tackle, we throw it back to a halfback. Well, the defense took the bait, rolled. The only thing left is that backside halfback. Jack Crabtree, our guard, pulls out, levels him. Terry catches the ball. Now, before that happened, Reggie's in there, and there's 8 seconds, 7 seconds. We're saying, snap the ball, Reggie, snap the ball. 5. And Reggie tells me afterwards, he says, Coach, I just checking things off, making sure everything's all right. With with 1 second to go, he snaps the ball, the gun goes off. That's when they shot the gun. The game's over, except for this play. So we complete the pass. He walks in the end zone unmolested. The people come out of the stands up over the wall like a sea of young people, and they're on the field, etc. And we're running out on the field, and Blake, my kicker, is pulling on my shirt. He's saying, "Coach, do I get to kick the extra points?" I said, "Son, the game's over. The game's over." We go in the locker room, we do all our bits, and they sit down, they throw everybody in the shower, including the police. We come back out an hour and 45 minutes later, the stadium is still packed. There were people hugging and crying because everybody had a friend, a teammate, a roommate on that particular plane. Unbeknownst to me, until years later, the students tore down the goalpost, took it to Spring Hill Cemetery, and laid it on the 6th grades. You know, it's amazing what you can do with perseverance. And that game was an example of perseverance. And I think that, you know, we were a small part, my staff and I. There were Stan Parrish had the first winning season 12 years later. George Chomp played for the national championship. Donna went on to Georgia, won 2 national championships. Bobby Pruitt won a national championship, had the winningest record ever. You know, everybody had a role. We just had a small part in starting and laying the foundation. But I think it exemplifies one of the greatest lessons in athletics, and that's to face adversity, get back up off the ground, and go on to success. And I think that's what I hope everybody would take from that movie. You know, sometimes we all live our lives in facing, in quiet desperation, facing adversity. But if I leave you with one message today, it's that you can overcome that adversity and go on to life's personal successes if you have faith, hope, and perseverance. God bless the Boy Scouts. God bless your leadership and support of the Boy Scouts. And God bless the Young Thundering Herd. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jack. Fantastic. I'm going to call on Mayor Kutcher to come on up, and he has a presentation for you.
Thank you.
Mayor Alan Kutcher.
Oh, thank you.
Lots of speakers under here.
The mayor said to keep it to under 30 seconds.
Actually, when they called me, they said, "You've got 3 minutes, and that's it." And I said, "All of you know me better than that." I have 2 tokens that I'd like to give you today, Coach. One is, this is the 150th birthday for the city of Port Huron, our sesquicentennial, and I'd like to present you with a commemorative coin that you can carry in your pocket and remember us always.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Well, thank you. Coach and I had a chance to be asked each other a little bit earlier, so I think he could outdo me. I'm not going to read. I have a certificate of recognition that I'm going to give to the coach. It goes through most of his jobs. He said he had 16 jobs, and I think we've only got 12 on here. So I'm not going to do that. We wanted, on behalf of the city of Port Huron, to present you with a certificate to thank you for your visit to Port Huron, to thank you for everything you've done in life. Coach, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Good job, gentlemen. Thank you. Well, the leader for this luncheon today is Don Fletcher, as John Hauser had mentioned. And so, Don, come on up and say a few words for us, will you, please?
Thanks to Jack, very informative as well as inspirational. Just a terrific message and values that we can take for everyday living. An event like this takes a lot of people to make it happen, and I'd just like to say a few thank yous. I'd like to thank Jeff and John and his staff for putting this together. It was managing the details in an event like this is significant, and we appreciate everything that you've done for us. I'd like to thank the table hosts, the table captains, I'd like to thank the Times Herald as well as Radio First. Thank you very much for providing us with the message to get out to the community. And I'd like to thank everyone here today for supporting this event. I would also like to thank Linda Anthony from the Edison for her staff and setting up the room and the food. Thanks to the Edison. I'd also like to just say that we've been into some extremely difficult times, and it's wonderful to see the headlines this morning, as well as on the radio, the good news. And you can see more smiles as I look out into this audience, and there's a little buzz today, and that's great. And yet the impact of what was announced is going to take a little time to really play out through the community. And there are many, many organizations that are struggling to fulfill their mission. And so I'd like to say that this program is certainly to bring quality speakers, but it isn't about speakers. It's about young boys and young men. And so we're here today to support them. They are the future of our area and of our region. And so we ask you not only to be our friends, but to also help us fundraise. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to ask all the table captains to stand up, and table hosts, stand up and be recognized. Table hosts. I'd also like to ask them to pass out their cards, pledge cards. We have, many of you have made commitments already. There are some that would like, and if it is within your capacity to do so, I would appreciate some upgrades on those commitments. I'd also like to say that there are several ways that you can support us financially. You can do that through a pledge. You can do that through a credit card, a check, whatever is your pleasure. You can make the checks out to the Blue Water Council. certainly don't want to interrupt any pledges or check writing, but we want to keep things moving. A few other thank yous, certainly to John Adair for MC. This is his fourth luncheon that he has MC'd, and thank you very much. We have Eric Hansen, who has done the audiovisual. We have Channel 6 here for those that weren't able to make it, that will be able to see it on TV. We also, I'd like a special note to the Times Herald. One of the things as we were visiting, they suggested that we take this to the high schools. So this morning at 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock, we had an opportunity to have Jack talk to 200 students at Northern, 200 students at PH. And the theme was self-respect and mutual respect. And it was a great message, and we appreciate the extra effort, Jack, on your part. And to all of you, thank you for giving me an opportunity to serve. John?
Thank you, Don. Do we have anybody in the room whose birthday is February 8th? February 8th. Anybody in the room with a birthday on February 8th? Can't see who that is over here. Only one? Anybody know what the significance of February 8th, 1910 is? Jeff Purdy knows. That's the day that Boy Scouts of America was founded. Now, I can't see who that is. You weren't born in 1910, were you? No. You'll see on the center of your table, we have a centerpiece, a bucket full of caramel corn. Anybody whose birthday is on February 8th or close to February 8th wins the bucket of popcorn. So you'll have to talk amongst your table and figure out who's closest to February 8th, not 1910, but to February 8th, and you win the bucket of popcorn. That's our door prize today. You'll know that we didn't fill this room with silent auction prizes or raffle tickets because we want to keep it snappy, and so that is your door prize for the day. Each one of you also has a packet of microwave popcorn. Okay, last, I'd like to call Scoutmaster Kevin Kovic. Scoutmaster Kovic is from the Memphis Troop 245. And he's coming up to give our benediction. As Kevin is coming up here, I want to make sure that everybody knows that Jack Lengel is available here today to, if you want to file by and say hi and shake hands, he's here to certainly say hi to you, and we want to thank Jack for coming here. And if you care for an autograph, Jack will sign your pledge card for anything over 10,000, right, Jack? 10,000? Yeah. Okay, Kevin, benediction, please.
Let us pray. And now, may God, the great master of all scouts, be with us till we meet again. 2.
That ends our program. Thank you for coming. Enjoy the rest of your day.
On my honor, I'll do my part. While walking on this trail of life and leading with mind and heart, it is the honor a Boy Scout only knows. Timeless values that will help us grow. Looking back upon my youth, lessons I learned there still ring true. The Scouts gave me the values to grow. My days are filled with worthwhile deeds, giving to others in times of need. By coming to their aid, I let them know. On my honor, I will be always loyal, kind, and trustworthy. On my honor, I'll do my part. While walking on this trail of life and leading with mind and heart, it is the honor a Boy Scout only knows. Timeless values that will help us grow. The years they pass, but now and then I see some of my scouting friends. Our thoughts return to campfires and songs. As I recall those best of times, it fills my eyes with tears of pride, knowing that I've lived up to that oath. On my honor, I will be always loyal, kind, and trustworthy. On my honor, I'll do my part. While walking on this trail of life and leading with mind and heart, it is the honor a Boy Scout only knows. Timeless values that will help us grow. Now I have a son and he looks to me to guide him in this life he sees, and I tell him of those days I love so well. He came home just this afternoon.